Throughout history, humanity has shown an incredible ability to invent tools of survival, conquest, and destruction. Nowhere is this more evident than in the medieval era, a time not only of knights and castles, but of ingenious and often terrifying weapons. In a world where strength often determined fate, creativity became a powerful weapon in itself. Welcome to Tides of Memory, where the past isn't forgotten. My name is Tom, and today we dive deeper into the remarkable inventions of weapons in the Middle Ages. Imagine standing on a battlefield surrounded by steel, smoke, and chaos. Ordinary swords and shields are just the beginning. Across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, warriors and inventors devised an astonishing array of weapons designed not just to kill, but to outwit and overwhelm their enemies. One of the most iconic yet brutal examples is the flail. At first glance, it seems simple, a wooden handle connected by a chain to a spiked metal ball. But this deceptively straightforward design had a brilliant tactical advantage. While a sword or axe could be blocked by a shield, a flail's flexible chain allowed the spiked ball to whip around a defender's guard, striking from unexpected angles. The chaotic motion also made it difficult to predict and counter. Of course, it was just as dangerous to the wielder as it was to the enemy, requiring considerable skill and nerve. Another inventive creation was the warhammer. In an age where armor became increasingly effective, blunt force grew more important. Swords might glance off plate armor, but a warhammer could concentrate massive force into a small point, denting, breaking, or even piercing heavy protection. Some designs included a hammer on one side and a deadly spike on the other, offering flexibility in the heat of battle. Against a fully armored knight, it was often the warhammer, not the sword, that sealed their fate. But medieval creativity wasn't limited to the battlefield. Siege warfare was a whole different arena for innovation. Think of the trebuchet, a massive machine that hurled huge stones at castle walls. More sophisticated than the earlier catapult, the trebuchet used a counterweight system that allowed it to launch projectiles with astonishing force and accuracy. Some accounts speak of diseased corpses being launched over walls to spread plague among the besieged, a brutal blend of biology and engineering. Then there was the man-catcher, a pole weapon with a spring-loaded or fixed semicircular head. It wasn't designed to kill, but to capture mounted knights, dragging them from their horses in a humiliating and often fatal fashion. Imagine the shock of a proud knight encased in shining armor being yanked to the ground by a seemingly simple tool. It was a reminder that in medieval warfare, cleverness could topple even the mighty. Looking eastward, we find even more remarkable ingenuity. In China, during the Song dynasty, inventors developed early forms of gunpowder weaponry. The fire lance was one such device, a spear-like weapon that discharged a flame or projectile at close range, shocking enemies and breaking lines. Though primitive compared to later firearms, fire lances represented the dawn of a new, terrifying era in warfare. And in Japan, the samurai and their foes wielded weapons that reflected a unique balance of form and function. One such weapon was the kusarigama, a sickle attached to a chain with a heavy iron weight. A master of the kusarigama could swing the weight to entangle an opponent's weapon or limbs, then moving quickly for a lethal strike with the sickle. It was a weapon that demanded finesse, patience, and precise timing, an elegant dance of death. Meanwhile, unconventional designs like the bec de corbin emerged in Europe. Named after the French word for raven's beak, this polearm combined a hammerhead with a beak-like spike. The hammer could batter armor, while the spike could pierce through the joints and weak points. Against mounted knights, weapons like the bec de corbin turned strength into strategy, targeting vulnerabilities with surgical precision. On the seas, the age-old Greek fire continued to terrify enemies. This mysterious incendiary weapon, projected from tubes aboard Byzantine ships, could burn even on water. Though its exact composition remains a mystery to this day, its effectiveness was legendary. Facing Greek fire in battle was akin to confronting an unstoppable force of nature. It was a reminder that not all weapons relied on brute force. Some wielded fear itself as a weapon. In the streets and alleys of medieval cities, creativity took on a more personal, sometimes desperate form. Assassins and street fighters often used concealed daggers like the misericord, a long, thin blade designed to slip through the gaps in armor and deliver a swift, merciful death to wounded knights. Its name, meaning mercy, belied the brutal purpose behind its slender form. Other weapons combined function with psychological warfare. The morning star, with its heavy spiked head, was as much about intimidation as it was about causing injury. A wall of soldiers advancing with morning stars glinting in the sun would have been a terrifying sight, one that could shake the resolve of even seasoned warriors before a blow was struck. And then there was the kusarigama, a polearm that began life as a farming tool. It featured a hook for pulling riders from horses, paired with a blade for slashing. In a society where farmers were sometimes pressed into military service, the adaptation of agricultural tools into deadly weapons showcased the practicality and resourcefulness of the common soldier. Even shields were weaponized. The Italian rotella was a round shield that could be used offensively to bash opponents. Some even had spikes or blades mounted on the boss at the center. With it, a fighter could defend against blows, then instantly counterattack with a brutal thrust. In every corner of the medieval world, weapons reflected the societies that made them. They were born from necessity, fear, ambition, and sometimes desperation. They evolved in an endless arms race between armor and arms, between fortifications and siege engines, between old traditions and new technologies. But more than that, medieval weapons tell a story of human creativity, a story where survival often depended not on being the strongest, but on being the smartest. A world where a farmer's scythe could become a soldier's halberd, where an alchemist's experiments could become a battlefield revolution, and where the simplest idea, like attaching a chain to a spiked ball, could become a deadly stroke of genius. Today, many of these weapons survive only as museum pieces or forgotten artifacts, but their legacy endures. They are reminders of a time when every battle was a test of not just strength and courage, but imagination. They are echoes from a world where creativity was often the difference between life and death. Thank you for watching Tides of Memory. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more historical deep dives into the tides of history. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel for more content like this. And as always, stay curious.